Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming. My name is Hollow and today I want to talk cut content. Lately we've been discussing possible locations, characters and the general details of what could be an Elden Ring DLC. Those have been fun videos to make and interesting to see all the different theories from you guys so far, but this actually ties well to cut content. Things that were planned to be in the game originally, like sound files and visuals, but were either removed or delayed maybe until later. The context of some of the dialogue we'll look at today makes time travel sound possible in the DLC, and it wouldn't be the first time they've done that. Essentially though, there is a lot of great creators and people in the Elden Ring community that are scouring through the files of the game and discovering unused content that was clearly cut from the full release. Today I want to take a look at a few interesting ones I've seen and send you guys to a few different creators who continue to search and produce great videos about these topics. Ultimately, everything we look at today is not in the full release and may never be, but it certainly makes for interesting speculation, so let's take a look. First up, the very interesting questline all around a silver tier, the creatures we know that can take on the forms of others known as mimics. Yes, your mimic tier summon seems to maybe have been a reward for a specific questline, which would have made it harder to earn, that's for sure. That would probably been a good thing. This comes from Rin, who created a wonderful visual showcase of this questline using the files and assets possible. I'll be showing a couple bits and screenshots here and there, but I would love if you went to Rin's channel and checked it out in full yourself. It is well worth it. So let's get to it. The questline that never made it to release involved the NPC Asimi, the silver tier who requests your help. She would ask you to do something slightly gross when you meet her, to consume her, and in exchange she'll give you, quote, strength untold. Sounds like a weird parasite just trying to trick you, but we'll get to that. That's where we would have been given the gross as hell looking silver tier item, which describes her as an infection to the tarnished. But it does say it grants us power. But what power is the thing I wonder? Essentially, you function now as a carrier for Asimi, and only when you reach certain places would she perk up. Specifically, after taking her to the eternal cities of Nokron and Nokstella, she'd speak, and at that point, she'd request you to take her around the city in full to discover the ancient wonders we could find there. But before long, she asked you to find a chalice in the city and drink it dry. This would help her recover her flesh, and apparently give us more strength. Now, according to Rin, there was meant to be 2 chalices you'd need to drink, and that makes sense because there'd be 1 in each city. Either way, after finding and drinking both, you'd be kind of knocked out and then wake up to find Asimi fully formed. Her item now shed like a snake skin, and the mimic stands before you as well. She claims she has become perfect now and tells you not to worry, that she's just going to follow in your footsteps, living just as you would, which, yeah, I think sounds kind of creepy. And eventually you will find her again, and this is not what she wanted. She claims that, yeah, you could have become Elden Lord, and then she could have been like a sovereign eternal, if only you hadn't found her. To me, that sounds like she wanted to pose as you while you were Elden Lord, and then live her life as if she's a lord without earning it herself. But now we know her plan and what she's been up to. She decides she'd rather just kill us and take the throne herself using our power, which would lead to the mimic fight that we know today in Nokron, the boss fight we have as we know. Rin actually made a great point here, where maybe this storyline was originally something you would need to complete to get the mimic tier summon, which as a very powerful summon, should really be harder to get than it is. The silver tiers are very interesting creatures. We know very little about them, and this storyline could have given us some more insight into them. But sadly, I don't think we'll ever see this in game now. Importantly though, we do know that from this questline and what happens in it, and the official description of the actual mimic, it says in the official lore of the mimic tier summon, these creatures were originally created and designed to become a lord. So it's no wonder that this NPC, that was its goal and that was its purpose. Rin plans to create more cut NPC storyline videos in the future, so I really recommend the channel to you. Next up though, it's time to talk underwear. Yes, cut content involves a lot of things, right? And surprisingly, it also includes underwear. We can see visual examples of this underwear thanks to FXtraLife's wiki image and this video from the YouTube channel Prizza Gaming Channel. Lately, players have been using cheats to spawn in a cut item that's fully functional. As it turns out, this item is an armor piece, if you can even call it that. It's underwear. The Deathbed companion underwear, aka Fear. These Deathbed smalls are essentially an alternative style to your underwear you normally wear on any character. I imagine they were actually originally part of the Deathbed set, because we do have the Deathbed dress in game which references Fear, so it would be reasonable to assume that that was the chest piece and then the underwear was your leg piece. Basically, it's just a neat design compared to the normal ones you'd have on. Maybe a bit more skimpy, I suppose. People have been spawning these in with cheats, and if you wear them while online, you could be soft banned because, yeah, you had to cheat them in. That naturally led to a funny chain of events where players were getting soft banned because people would invade them and then drop them this item. And when they would pick it up or maybe even wear it, they would be soft banned for using a blacklisted item. So be wary. If you're invaded by a friendly invader who drops underwear, just run away. Although that's probably good advice if someone you don't know is dropping their underwear in public. Moving on, we're going to take a look at some cut dialogue from Godfrey, which, hey, could possibly be dialogue we will hear in game someday, maybe in a DLC. As I mentioned at the start, the Soulsborne series is used to time travel. In Dark Souls 1, we were pulled through a portal back in time by Manus, and in Bloodborne, we're taken to a nightmare set around the past, involving key players we never saw in our current timeline. For Elden Ring's possible DLC, there is a theory going around that there's a tower in the middle of the map, and that could take us to the past, before the Shattering. But yeah, either way, however it happens, if it happens, people think time travel could be possible for a DLC in Elden Ring. But now let's look at that cut dialogue from Godfrey himself, the former Elden Lord. This comes thanks to Sekiro Doobie. We have the audio playing in video form, which I will reference. Do check out the full video yourself and the channel to find more cut dialogue showcases. So this is the cut dialogue, which is very interesting. Let's listen.
Tarnished warrior, spurned by the grace of gold, seek that which hath been lost to thee across the sea of fog to the lands between. Seek the Elden Ring, brave tarnished. Mighty warriors who fought at my side await the summons. It will call to thee one day. Heed the fading grace. Listen to the fingers. Gold commandeth the very stars, giving life its fullest brilliance. Be ready once it is shattered. Seek the Elden Ring, O tarnished.
It's weird, isn't it? He's speaking to us as though we aren't currently in the lands between at the time, implying that we're meeting Godfrey in a more neutral state where we can talk to him casually at a location outside of the region we play in today. More important too is that he speaks to us as though we're in the past, before the Shattering. He references the Elden Ring as though it will shatter in the future, as though he knew Marika was going to shatter it. After all, Marika told Godfrey that he and his followers would be called back by the Grace in the future. That was told to us by Melina. So it seems Marika planned more than we expected. When the Rune of Death fragment was stolen and Godwyn and Ranni died at the same time, Marika was said to have shattered the Elden Ring, while Radagon tried to restore it. I always thought that it sounded like, yeah, she did that in a moment of despair, rather than being sound of mind at the time. And yet this dialogue sounds like it was a plan all along, maybe a ruse to trick the Elden Beast. But I guess it didn't work as intended because she was still punished. But it still did set into motion our return to the lands, ultimately going on to defeat the Elden Beast. Maybe that was Marika's plan, even though Radagon tries to stop us. Ultimately, this is all cut content though, meaning this was maybe never meant to be included in the game or shouldn't be taken as fact. So if we do hear it again in the future in a DLC, we can take it seriously then, but until then, it's just interesting. Next up, a quick word on the Colosseums around the world. This is a big topic in my second Elden Ring DLC discussion video, so I'm not going to go over it in depth here. I'd recommend you check out my video all about it. But at this time, the arenas function as cut content, right? We're talking about 3 Colosseums that sit in Lindell, Limgrave, and Caelid. 3 interesting themes for a battle, for a nice variety of backgrounds. Now, the Souls series has used arenas like this for match-made PvP before, with set rules enforced by the game itself, rather than just a community understanding that you can break if you want to. Something simple like you can queue for PvP, and then you'd end up in one of those 3 arenas with an opponent to defeat. Thanks to the matchmaking, they'd be close to your current level, and neither of you would be able to use a flask to heal. In Dark Souls 3, that's exactly what we got with the Hollow Arena, except you could also have free-for-all battles between many players there, and do team battling as well. That's something I would expect to see in maybe a DLC of Elden Ring, or a free update beforehand, because when we take a look inside, you can see that it's fully fleshed out in there. It's got elevators that you'll enter from, viewing stands for an audience, and the wonderful view out to the sea. So yeah, very cool, and hopefully something we see in game and used soon. Last but not least then, the fact that our first boss, the Grafted Scion, may not have always been planned as our first boss. Zully the Witch, an incredible YouTuber in the Souls scene, found that specific model IDs exist in place for the Chapel of Anticipation. Now, Zully has created a wide variety of great Souls series content for years, and I really recommend them as a creator to watch. But either way, the Chapel is where we find our first boss fight, and that's the one they expect you to lose to, the Grafted Scion. Now, the IDs here show that other bosses could be spawned here and may have been considered as your first challenge. We can see, thanks to Zully, that the 3 unused IDs tied to the Chapel were a Crucible Knight with their dragon transformation powers, or rather, Crucible incantations, a Banished Knight, like the ones we experience a bit in Stormveil Castle, or much later in Farum Azula, and finally, even an Erd Tree Guardian, the living trees that seem to be based off the OG enemy type, the Vanguard of Demon Souls, or the Asylum Demon in Dark Souls 1. I think it's fair to say that that would have made for a very familiar first fight. They've literally done that twice before, so I'm glad they've decided not to go with that enemy. And surprisingly, there aren't many Grafted Scions in the game overall. So I prefer that they used a new and quite rare enemy as our first challenge, so I agree with the choice. But there you have it, some various cut content that we know about in Elden Ring that I found interesting, and there's actually a lot more that I could talk about than just those that exist and people have discovered so far. I definitely recommend you check out the channels I referenced today then to see more of that, to see the full videos we talked about today, and honestly way more great topics and content to do with the secrets and cut content of Elden Ring. It's very interesting. If you have any theories or information to do with what we talked about today though, let me know in the comments. And actually, if you would like to see more videos like this, hit like so I know that you would like to see that. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.